Sometimes it's okay to disregard the law, but is this movement going too far too fast?
Mary Cleary thinks her
is in depth tonight. The justice system, a new movement in this country to encourage juries to take the law into their own hands. Some of the main players in this movement are also members of the militia. They don't trust the system. They disagree with the laws. Is this freedom of speech or a real danger to justice? NBC's Fred Francis tonight has our in-depth report.
Overturn bad laws, fully informed jury. Help change bad laws, keep America free.
At this California courthouse and others nationwide, prospective jurors are being told during trials, if you don't like the law, you should ignore it.
Would you like some jury information?
You have the right to overturn.
Thank you, have a nice day.
They are with the Fully Informed Jury Association, or FIJA, which claims 2,500 followers, a loose alliance of unlikely allies ranging from liberal lawyers to militiamen, all advocating that jurors vote their conscience no matter how a judge instructs them or what the evidence shows.
The jury is the fourth branch of government. The jury trial was placed there as a last-ditch protection between the people and oppressive government.
Nancy Lord is defending this 50-year-old grandmother, Yvonne Regas, a florist in Reno, Nevada. Regas wanted a federal jury to know it had the power to throw out a drug charge against her son. What was your motivation?
I believe that it was the jury's right to know this.
During the trial, Regas had FIJA pamphlets put on jurors' cars encouraging them to vote their conscience. Deputies removed them before jurors knew they were there.
You don't feel you did anything wrong whatsoever?
It's our First Amendment right.
The jurors convicted Regas' son, and because of the pamphlets, she was charged with jury tampering. In remote western Montana, at FIJA's trailer headquarters, the Yvonne Regas case is seen as a landmark.
If they find that to be jury tampering, it's not just us that's in trouble, this country is in trouble.
Not a militiaman, but a transplanted Ivy Leaguer with a doctorate in sociology, Larry Dodge helped found FIJA here 6 years ago because he says too many people are in prison who don't need to be.
Speakers? No. I'll bet that's a letter.
The literature he and his staff put out is seen by prosecutor groups around the country as fostering judicial anarchy.
We've got anarchy now. We need a cure. And I think if the juries were given their head and allowed to, basically comment on the law with their verdict, there would be a realignment between the will of the people and the laws of the land.
Laws applied unfairly. One example, the murder case against suicide Dr. Jack Kevorkian. FIJA gave jurors its pamphlet saying you may and should vote your conscience. The judge was angry, but the jury freed Kevorkian. Nowhere has the attempt to influence juries been more aggressive than here in Ravalli County, Montana, where it has become part of a wider rebellion against government authority. Here, every prospective juror, 14,000 of them, receive this mailing telling them to ignore the judge's instructions if they think the law is bad.
If they get that kind of thing and they think, well, I guess I could go in there, and if I don't like what's going on, I could just tell the judge to stuff it.
We have no objection, Your Honor.
So prosecutor John Connor charged Joe Holland, a national militia organizer already charged with threatening judges, with jury tampering for mailing that letter.
Not guilty.
Connor says jurors taking the law into their own hands would devastate the legal system.
It seems to me absurd to come to a jury who is not familiar with any of these legal concepts and say, well, this may be the law that your legislative body, your elected body decided upon, but if you choose to do so, you can simply ignore it.
It's called jury nullification. It happens all the time.
FIJA's Nancy Lord says there's nothing wrong with that.
People have a right to know they are not helpless in the case of a government gone mad.
Which is exactly what FIJA says has happened with Yvonne Regas, charged with jury tampering for distributing the FIJA pamphlet on jurors' rights. Ironically, the Regas jury will have to examine the very pamphlet the government didn't want any jury to see in the first place. Fred Francis, NBC News, Reno, Nevada.
How much to worry about here? Joining me now is NBC legal correspondent Jack Ford. If this movement continues to spread, is the judicial system in this country in some jeopardy, Jack?
I don't think so, Tom. Historically, jurors have always had the power to go back in, close the doors, and say, look, we're going to do what we think is right, even if it's not what the law says we should do. But you know what? It happens very, very rarely. The idea has always been that jurors are the conscience of the community, citizens that are between the government and prisons to do what's right. But as we said, it doesn't happen for a couple of reasons. One is that judges will almost always question jurors beforehand and ask them, will you follow the law as I instruct you? If somebody says no, they're usually right off the jury. And the next thing is judges rarely let lawyers stand up and say to the jurors, you know what, ignore what the judge just told you, do what I'm telling you to do. Usually the most you can get away with as a trial lawyer is to say to the jurors, you folks do what you think is the right thing to do. So I think what's new here, Tom, is the fact that people are trying to spread this information to jurors, not the fact that the jurors have a power, but it's a power that's rarely used.
But prosecuting them isn't that a violation of their free speech rights?
Well, I think you're going to have people jump right away against this and say, look, constitutionally, these folks have a right to stand up and say to these jurors, here's what we think you people should do. I think it'll be very difficult to get any type of criminal conviction against somebody just because of that.
Thanks very much, Jack Ford, tonight. The militia movement and its strange bedfellows, something that we'll keep watching here in depth. I'll be right back.